Finance teams can spend hours every day matching bank statements, sorry, and coordinating cash movements. What if AI agents could take over much of that work? In today's session, you'll discover how SAP is using Joule's cash management agent with SAP S/4HANA to transform cash management and bring Agentic Finance into real-world operations. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome. We are excited to have you join us. Today, I have the pleasure of having Damian Preisner, Head of Finance and Process and Solutions Excellence, and Max Stein, Product Owner, joining me. And now let me introduce our experts. With the vision of autonomous finance with AI and agentic capabilities, Damian leads the teams for finance processes, products, and solution teams in the corporate processes and IT unit, acting as customer zero with SAP runs SAP finance-related topics. Max is the product owner of the CPIT, that is corporate processes and functions, IT unit, Treasury team, and focuses on delivery and go live execution of SAP solutions within SAP itself. Together with his team, he ensures smooth operations for the whole Treasury business department on their day-to-day tasks. And now let us dive in. Damian, please take it away.
Thanks for having us and inviting us. Max Stein is with me, as you heard. And who we are, well, as you learned from Tania, we are the SAP IT department, led by our CIO, and we are focusing on our internal customer, the finance unit, which is led by our CFO. While AI capabilities are all around, today we want to show you how we embed AI capabilities into our transformation journey and into SAP's daily processes and actions with using SAP Autonomous Enterprise. Well, this illustrates the SAP transformation journey, which we did start, of course, earlier than 2008. This is what we just showed to you. Like a typical corporate customer, we moved from SAP R3, called ECC, to a business suite on HANA. We've been very early with our simple finance migration. So again, that's the connect to our finance unit into CFO. And we moved in 2019 to the SAP S4 HANA, already evaluating first machine learning solutions and new analytical solutions. That's what you see here on the graph. While we established further SAP S/4HANA Cloud solutions and started with Joule in 2025, actually last year. That's the first cliffhanger for later, where Max will share more. We are also following our RISE journey and continued to adopt solutions combining SAP S/4HANA with SAP Business Data Cloud, exploring also several business AI solutions, which changed our transformation to SAP AI. Since 2026, we are exploring the autonomous enterprise with focus to autonomous finance. And this is where we dive deeper. Here, for the transformation, a kind of key narrative we normally share, which is typical for a corporate. The slide shows you and tells you the story how finance and IT have been a twin engine for driving SAP's own transformation. You may know that SAP is transforming from a traditional on-premise software vendor to an AI-powered cloud company enabled by the autonomous enterprise. And there are two key elements I want to emphasize on. So element number one, our internal customer, the finance unit, did and is running a transformation since years with focus on standardization as a global corporate, with having a joint vision and the mantra together to bring the CFO unit to further excellence. This is our joint vision, part of our joint vision. While in parallel, our IT transformation did run as well. And we used to say shortly from a reactive siloed IT, which is often seen as a cost center in the company. I think we are moving and moved to a strategic enabler, which is now becoming much more AI powered and which serves the CIO excellence. While this CIO excellence feeds the CFO excellence again. This is a twin engine. Element number 2 we want to focus on is a mantra we call SAP runs SAP. And it's now much often called customer number 0. So what does that mean? Well, inside SAP, we do act, as mentioned, as finance and IT as customer 0 together, twin engine. That means we do not just talk about innovation, we implement and adopt first. We evaluate, implement and adopt first. Naturally, we focus on SAP solutions first. Well, while validating those new solutions in real business operations and actions, that's what we do before, normally, it reaches the market. That means we live through the journey ourselves, as set from R3, ECC, S4, now powered AI native operations to Agentic Finance. This means also we learn first, we discover what works and maybe what doesn't work initially. Then we give feedback. And all of this to show also to customers and what you might need to succeed. It's never been meant as a perfect manual or cookbook. It's just an experience we have firsthand. And we call this a privilege, sometimes with the flavor of a pain for the customers. That might give us some credibility because we are the customer number 0. And it should give to our customers the confidence that it works. And this shows and proves our journey of transformation and brings us to where we are today. This illustrates how do we approach in our AI transformation currently, which is, as said, running since years, and it will continue to run. The way how we look currently is the agentic process is a new paradigm focused on redesigning processes based on agents, on speed, and on human in the loop. This is where we are in the middle of it. What we found out currently, and we are honest, we need to reimagine many processes because, as said, the speed of change, the speed of process is changing in this new paradigm. And that's where we kicked off SAP internally, a kind of transformation program, or re-kicked the journey with a new program focusing exactly on that. Now we are using, as said, we see the future of SAP Business Suite and AI in the autonomous enterprise. Now you may ask, what does SAP mean by an autonomous enterprise? I think it's quickly said, an autonomous enterprise is using AI assistants, the top of the node Joule and AI assistants with specialized agents to support and orchestrate end-to-end business processes. Or more precise, Joule is the new engagement layer, which is your interaction and the front door, how we might call it, bringing together the right data, the right flow, the right processes, the right AI capabilities across SAP systems and beyond. So the autonomous suite is the execution layer with this autonomous domains. And the business AI platform on the bottom is the foundation where you can build, integrate, contextualize, reasonize, and govern. That's pretty important for us. And this is what we explore currently. And this is what we want to share more of with you. With a focus on autonomous finance, remember CFO is our internal customer, this finance unit. So that's where we focus on. We connect to process journeys just illustrate, for example, accounting and close or treasury and working capital. Here you do see that the first assistants are there already, and they do interact and orchestrate AI agents which run supported and orchestrated by these assistants. Like you see here, the cash and treasury assistant. So in future, we might see more assistants on the SAP roadmap and more agents in the appropriate areas. Here you see again autonomous enterprise with the showing the assistants which are already there, and the structure and the deep dive we want to give you right now is actually really in this cash and treasury assistant. And this is, Max, where you come into the game.
Thank you, Damian. So this lovely transition we see, the transformation journey, exactly that's the point where we currently also still are, yeah? We didn't finalize it yet, but to enable ourselves for this autonomous finance, we are currently already doing the first steps and enable our system environment for it. I will explain it in a few seconds, but when we stick to this slide, just let me briefly mention that the cash positioning agent we explored already in beta. We could register for that last year in December. We actually did already also a previous, let's say, first try as an agent, which is in our productive environment already enabled. And we are following up currently in this time with the bank relationship agent in our development area. And then hopefully in few months, we see maybe the treasury financing agent also in our system landscape. If we have a look now for the next slide, what is our system landscape? It's quite basically and easy to explain. And I think many customers will have a much more larger and much more complex system landscape than us. But we are lucky. We have actually two major systems. Even we can say one core ERP and one second ERP. And as you can see on this graphics here, the core ERP has a lot of custom extensions, sometimes custom code, sometimes integrations to other systems, while the second ERP is very lean and nearly sticks to standard wherever possible. But leading to the consequence on the second one, we just have 30 company codes operational running, while the major stack of 254 is running on our core ERP. And as you can see, the Joule icon resides on the core ERP. So if we look now for this Joule specific environment on the next slide, we call it our Treasury AI ready architecture. This is the environment we are currently really working on. Minor parts are already done, still some bigger parts, let's say in constructions together with our partner teams. But give me a bigger glance on this vision, because this is the autonomous enterprise. This is our goal for 2028. At least those agents, this environment is running completely. At the end of the year, hopefully all our employees can use Joule Work, which is one prominent solution here. Again, partner teams are supporting us. It's not the Treasury IT team leading on it. Nevertheless, we need to start to integrate this solution into our processes. This is what Damian already introduced also with the 5 pillars. Really, this will be in a later stage, a little bit more teased by me, how work with an SAP system will look like in future. But if we have a look for the right side, we see the cash positioning agent. As I mentioned already, we registered ourselves for beta. We explored it in our system landscape. We're currently waiting for the GA, like all customers, that we then really can roll it out in our system environment, also in productive landscape. And also, hopefully, the bank relationship agent can be included in this rollout. And then, as mentioned already, the treasury financing agent is something what will come from product engineering in addition. And I think what is very interesting for you is also to see here the left side, the CPIT AI golden path. This is actually our pro code environment. In a few seconds, I will explain the difference why I call it the pro code environment and compared to Joule Studio. But here, for example, a vision is, or we're currently actually installing already the first steps here for the payment insights that we really gain here for our treasury business value, that they can see in real time by agent communication if some payments are stuck or need some special help. that we can really support here in an operational manner. And as you see, the bottom foundation, the source where we are all retrieving all information out, is our S/4HANA, the core ERP system. So when we are using a cash positioning agent, we are connecting exactly to this bottom S4 system. And if we dig down now to the cash positioning agent, so if we jump to this PC, you will see this is the UI where actually then the cash positioning task will start. So actually you don't need to be in this Fiori app, but I just added it for visualization. And actually, if I click now on the Joule icon, I will insert my prompt to perform the cash positioning daily task today in euro. Basically, as you see, I've used the same profile. I just explained here the cash positioning profile, which helps to structure a little bit what kind of company codes, what kind of bank accounts should be considered. During this process, the agent will ask myself either to follow up the policy, so I can upload a policy here, or ask himself. You can also answer in a chat session like I do here, that you define a given limit you want to have on your accounts. With that is, let's say, your minimum balance you want to make your positioning. Based on that, he will analyze the current information in the system, suggest you and let's say, compromised overview with the deficit accounts, the surplus accounts. You can fund this deficit account with the respective bank-to-bank transfers which were available, suggest you a solution. And here again, the human in the loop is the key part which plays here really the decision. You as a user are responsible what the agent is doing. Also, your user ID will be tracked in this bank-to-bank transfer. And in the end, if you confirm and create, only then the bank-to-bank transfer will follow the usual, let's say, sequence with the approval steps, the payment file gets out, and you did the positioning of your respective deficit account. This is the cash positioning agent in a nutshell. As mentioned, in addition, he has further functionality like a bank statement overview, etc. We triggered now a little bit due to the time, just a visualization on that one. But if we click on the next slide, you as a customer should always, we repeated the slide, but if we check, you as a customer always have the option also, and keep an eye on this beta testing listing, that you get some shipments earlier. So this was opened already in December 2025. We made first explorations here, and it's similar like all other customers in the world. We needed to register ourselves also for that we are enabled and can consume this respective agent in our standalone Joule instance. There are still restrictions we know in this agent, that he is currently just doing the positioning for today's state. So, and that's where then the financing agent will come into play, that he will have also a support for the long-term view to discuss then with the short-term cash positioning agent how to position and how to optimize your, let's say, short-term but also long-term view to fund your company properly. In addition, what is already considered here, because we use the short-term cash position app in the background, is that the Treasury cash pool profiles are recognized and the cash pool hierarchy is recognized. And also the Treasury policy can be included here. When we start to the next slide, I started to discuss about the future UI. As you can see, we had here now the comparison a little bit with the Fiori app and the Joule icon, and actually we are starting to chat with our system. Basically, if we now zoom into Joule Work and Joule Studio on the next slide, we will actually aim to go for that next step for our system landscape. Meaning our business, hopefully within the next year, will start to do the daily work with Joule Work. What does this mean and how Joule Studio work with each other here? If we go for the next slide, I can give you a guidance on the respective steps here. First of all, the conversions are the chats you will do. So as you saw in the previous slide with the cash positioning agent, where I was in the S4 system and clicked on the Joule icon, basically this same conversation you can do out of Joule Work. In the spaces, It's like really a working space which you create for yourself, where you can have respective daily tasks and daily operations. Even if you create a skill, you can automatically let it update the respective space so that you have always the recent information for your tasks you need. And then we had the third tab, the jobs. Here, you really get the monitoring view to see, okay, what's going on actually in my system? What do I need maybe to have a look on? What is going wrong? What is going right? Is there anything I need to have special attention to? And then, and this is the most important step, I will have now further looks, you can develop. And as you see very prominently, you also can develop agents, not just NHN workflows or applications or extensions. Also agents can be deployed. So if we click on the next slide, I just teased how this will look like. So actually, you can start your conversation, how to create an AI agent. And then afterwards, you will ask, okay, what business challenge would you like to solve with this agent? And as you can see, within 4 lines, I try to explain here a quite common scenario. I guess every treasury department somehow is involved with. It wants to know, where's my payment? How does this look like? Is there anything I might need to follow up? And for maybe more deeper technology here, if there is something in my DMEX or DMEE tree to be adjusted in case of failed payments. That is actually the challenge I gave him, and he started to compute. And as you can see, he's now considering also here the whole system environment of SAP with LeanIX, Signavio, and other solutions, trying to collect all this information to provide you the best suited agent. If we click on the next slide, he will then start to ask different questions. First questions might be what kind of systems you would like to connect. I think we didn't jump to the next slide. And the other question he might ask is, besides the systems you would like to connect, so I've selected here an on-premise system for this scenario, he also will think about the personas he needs to serve. So the agent, even though you just gave him the initial query, is thinking already the next steps to distinguish what kind of users group might challenge my requirements, so that he's building on these personas, let's say, respective responses. On the next slide, we then will see that the intent is then derived out of this initial 4 sentences. So you see there's quite a lot of requirements already collected. He's also thinking about the different teams, the different connections he needs to establish, and bring also the business context into a whole picture. And based on that, he even will try to fit the intent. So he's even challenging himself during the session, how good am I fitting actually to the intent which I derived out of the user input. And with that, you will then continue in the session to figure out the requirements and the specification. So when we click on the next slide, you will see there are requirements derived, for example, what kind of unit tests you would like to write, or what kind of specifications needs to be considered, leading to the final stage where you already, without coding a real line of code, just by a prompt, you will be able to test your agent and even to deploy once you're satisfied with the result. And then there's the testing where he includes unit tests and agent tests, simply to verify that he's consistently providing the correct answers or checking his connections. And then in the later stage, as mentioned, there's a deployment and the respective deployment schedules to be followed, where we as an organization ourselves are currently also distinguishing who is the owner of the deployment. Do we outsource everything to the business, or will be parts of that in the IT? Where is the handover point? Because what everyone wants to avoid is that in the end, 100 completely similar agents are deployed in your system environment, maybe just by minor parts different, and you will completely lose the overview which of the agents will react on your prompt. And based on that, you might get different answers each time. So this is, of course, something also the organization might need to think on long term, how Joule Studio and the deployed agents, how the deployment path should look like, where are the, let's say, boundaries, how much freedom is given. When we now jump, I think, to the next slide where we get again the overview. Oh, sorry. Here we come to the lessons learned. Maybe that's also a good point. So what we already learned while deploying the cash positioning agent especially was our S4 system needs to be ready. At least OP 2023 version was for our cash positioning scenario the case. We needed to ensure that and install 5 additional nodes. This is really the technical foundation, as you saw in the previous slides, maybe where I had the business AI platform and the S4 in the middle on the bottom. The S4 needs to be able to provide the consumable information for the agent. Therefore, these nodes are required really to ensure proper information sharing to the business AI platform. The second step from the S4, you need to expose these roles to the BTP. Damian already shared it, and I think prominently also on the Sapphire it was stated, the governance of the agent is very important. We need to ensure that our business roles still are just eligible to do the respective tasks which they were eligible, let's say, in a normal GUI or Fiori session. So this user should be not too powerful. Therefore, we expose our S4HANA roles to the BTP, and based on that, assign the users to these roles. So Joule natively will follow the role concept of the S4 and even ensure that this data is handled properly and scenarios are selected based on user profiles. There's still a second gap or point where we can protect, let's say, rule misusage, that the API in a later stage will validate against the user ID and figure out this user is not authorized to retrieve the data, but this leads to an unsatisfying result on the agent screen that you get an empty result. So therefore, this rule concept is very important to be followed so that the agent will really just react on the agent, on the users which are allowed for that. And we prevent, let's say, negative experience for other users which are routed by accident to this scenario, but actually are not authorized to use that and don't get the respective results they are looking for. Tips and tricks we can share is that once you are in the rollout phase really here, collect the Joule debugging role, because this helps to understand what kind of scenarios are selected, what is the situation here. Latest, once you analyze that the scenario is collected, the API is correctly called, you need then to go back to your S4 system and check here the gateway client to figure out if there are maybe some other root causes why the data is not collected. When we look for the last and final slide, and that is maybe then a good summary for this session, we really emphasize everyone to start and continue the transformation journey, because this, as we saw, the cycles are getting closer and closer. It's more frequently, more quicker developing. And to be honest, if you would have asked me 3 months ago, I wouldn't know the Joule work and Joule Studio and this whole environment, how this will look like in my system environment in the next 3 years. Now I'm getting more and more the vision into it, and I try to share it here so that you will see actually, hopefully in near future, all SAP users are not using anymore, maybe majority of the time, Fioris or GUIs, but they are really going into Joule work and retrieve their all information, which then automatically considers your emails, your calendar, and maintain for you all required information on a given space so that you can quicker and more efficiently operate and even automatically answer sometimes requests which needs quick answers. So team up with your internal stakeholders or customers, combine your journeys and define a joint vision, how you get this Joule work or Joule Studio vision into the autonomous enterprise for you as a customer. As mentioned, check the prerequisites, systems, processes, change management. What we, for example, shared as S4HANA OP 2023 version with the respective nodes might be a precondition for you to consume for the cash positioning agent. What is important? AI embedded capabilities are real. We can experience them every day. We should work on that. We should invest on that, especially we at SAP. We try to provide you here the answers. Yes, it's possible. You can achieve this also. Because we at SAP, we try to use our own solutions the same way as you as a customer would use. So our role as customer zero is clear. We continuously also provide feedback here to our product engineering. And yeah, as Damian already mentioned, sometimes this privilege is nice, as we saw here for Joule Desktop and Joule Studio, but sometimes also this experience is a pain. But hopefully we just suffer as CPIT, SAP team, the pain, and you as a customer really get rather the privileged feeling that the solutions are working perfectly for you. And with that, I think we finalized at least our presentation so far. What we just can enhance for you or recommend for you is also that you have a look here for the next sessions, especially if you're maybe for the CPIT AI Golden Path, Joule Studio more interested. I think there are several sessions for that. So you get more dig down than I could do in this short session here for more details if you're interested. And back to you, Tania, I guess.
Thank you. And especially let me thank you very warmly for this excellent walkthrough of your experiences within SAP IT. We have questions. So let me take the first one. Do we have a step-by-step implementation document to implement the cash management app?
So cash management app is a very detailed question. So let's say for the cash positioning agent, I just recently really provided also for our product engineering and our product teams, marketing teams, some guidance based on our experience. So I hope there should be something there. If you're asking for the cash app, so cash application, maybe you're referring to, this app is not in my team directly handled. So I can't give here a clear guidance on that, but I'm pretty sure there should be also a document.
Thank you. Then license question. Is an additional license required to deploy AI agents in cash management?
To my understanding, not, but just be aware, so we are CPIT SAP team, so we internally consume that. So we are not talking about licenses, we are just talking about cost allocations in controlling matters. So I can't answer that, unfortunately.
Thank you anyway. I thought so. I already mentioned might be difficult for you as our internal IT to answer licensing questions, but I promise to ask it anyway. Then a good question. While creating a new agent, will Joule suggest existing agents with overlapping features and provide provision to reuse it fully or partially?
That's a very good question. I think this is valuable feedback I will even provide maybe our Joule Studio colleagues. So far, at least on my personal experience, I didn't met the point that it suggested me, hey, look, there's a similar agent you could have a look for. So thanks a lot for this input, but so far, I'm not aware that this is automatically yet considered.
Thank you for the question. Valuable input. Next question. What else is planned in cash management treasury itself for future, next to the cash positioning agent?
So we saw this short outlook. So the bank relationship agent is something which should also come soon. With that, you get, let's say, a good insight how your relationship with a respective bank looks like. So assuming you as a treasury department have the next day, I can't say now a bank, but a bank is coming over, that you can then directly ask Joule, hey, look, how is my relationship with this bank X compared to Y? Is there example bank fees? Are they charging actually too much for me? Am I using them for some payments where actually the other bank is more preferable? So there are options where you can analyze, and with that you can directly go into the meeting and have better discussions, hopefully with your bank relationship partners. And then what we also saw was the financing agent, what I tried to trigger. This will closely work with the cash positioning agent together. clearer with the focus on long-term perspective, and then hopefully suggest you the proper financing options in case you are in short in cash, or even give you opportunities to invest, respectively, if you have a surplus of cash.
I can add on that, Tania, if you allow. I think, or if I understand the question,
Absolutely.
in addition to what Max said, what we believe will come, more assistance might come in the area. We've seen a bundle of in the finance. So you've seen, for example, in particular, a cash assistant and a treasury assistant. What we expect also according to our feedback as customer zero, but also feedback of the customers, that within that assistant layers, then more agents will be available in the upcoming quarters in these areas. So in addition, what you've seen, cash positioning agent, treasury finance agent, what Max mentioned, and this relationship agent, we expect some more agents to come to cover areas down the road and in future.
Thank you very much. There's the next question. Not sure it's very much Joule related, but ask it anyway, whether it's, not sure it's your area of expertise. How is Joule Studio 2 different from 1.0? Can I migrate the scripts from 1 to 2?
So maybe I jump in here a little bit. So Joule 1.0 was clearly built on sub-build framework, while Joule Studio 2.0 is using Python scripts in background. So really going on a code-based and, let's say, decoupling from the framework. Meaning, if actually I made all experiences in 1.0, all what I did there, I just tried now with this initial prompt to rework in that other environment of Joule 2.0. So basically there is no migration path because there's no migration need. Yeah, because everything what you did there was very strictly and, let's say, predefined already by you how the agent should react with this graphs and the respective actions and input-output parameters. And as you saw now in this session, hopefully, I didn't define any input-output parameters. This is all vibe coded. So maybe in a technical point, you will have to look on your code, but there's no migration possibility, but also no requirement because the framework is completely different.
Thank you. Then the next one, is the Joule approach suited for already matured system or teams, or can it be proposed to new customers projects?
And I start? I think just high level, I think if I understand the question, it can be both actually. And if you take, for example, SAP, if as a normal corporate customer, we have already in some areas good automation rates. So that means we add the agent, experiment with them and see how they can add more on that in a different way and manner. I think that's exactly the new paradigm we are talking about. But if I just go in and you are a completely new customer, I think the value might be even greater. Let's assume that you should definitely explore that, having no or less legacy tools or software in place. It would be almost an ideal place or situation to place agents into that, really to level up the best out of it. That's a bit generic answer, but I would assume while talking to other customers, I think that is a very good opportunity if you're rather blank, so to say. So AI agents would be really having a good lever also to show the potential of AI capabilities. And Max, you add on that? You want?
I think you perfectly answered it. I wouldn't have more words.
Perfect, thank you. The next one. Will all the standalone agents be integrated as one?
So maybe just picking up here the point, maybe you're referring to the slide where we had this custom agent space, but even if not, and you refer to the right side on the previous architecture picture I have still in my head, hopefully everyone else can follow, with the cash positioning agent, let's say financing agent, or maybe the payment insight agent custom built. So there is no need to have one big agent doing all. This is a little bit also teased with this UI where you have the assistants, which are then having the agents on the screen, or also on the other PowerPoint showed by Damian, where we had different departments and then the respective agents below it. So the assistant is, let's say, a little bit like the conversation layer, figuring out what is the intent of a user. And based on that, you will then call the respective agents. So the agents are just waiting until the assistant is, let's say, calling them, and only then act on this action. So when we extend with custom agents, we also will use the so-called A2A protocol, so agent-to-agent protocol. This is, let's say, a defined, you can say like an ISO norm, a defined protocol how agents technically communicate with another agent, so that hopefully there are no misunderstandings between these agents. And with that, you actually enable yourself that even if you have a custom agent, you don't need to necessarily integrate it into another agent. You just will call this agent whenever you have a dedicated ask for him. And to, let's say, route here properly the information, the descriptions of these agents needs to be very precise, what they are doing, what they can do, and maybe what they can't do, so that it's really precisely rooted to this respective agent. The similar way, like in an organization, if you don't know the HR department colleague perfectly, you might reach out to the department lead and he will route to the respective person. So, and if you may be heard by another colleague, hey, maybe this guy can help you, you're calling sometimes and he can't help you because it's not his area. So that's why a profile description is very important. So the same way agents will communicate with each other.
Or maybe sticking and adding to the example Max showed, look, if we open Joule and you just prompt perform daily cash management, daily cash positions, I think then Joule is simply speaking calling this cash agent assistant, which is orchestrating to the cash positioning agent. I think this is how it, in a simplified way, how we can route it. And maybe as a information, a second example which comes to my mind is if you open Joule and say, how is my period closing in the financial closing running? Then there is a financial closing assistant, which will be then called from Joule. And this closing assistant points you then to an agent, just assuming if you prompt also, how are my accruals running in the closing process? So, and that's kind of logic we can consider, simplified version. And the A2A, what agent-to-agent communication, what Max outlined, I think this is exactly what will help us here to orchestrate across.
Thank you so much, both of you. The next question is, what is the technical platform and setup behind your custom agents?
So referring, I hope, to the CPIT AI Golden Path. So actually it's a partner team building up, but high levelly described, it's on the BTP or Business AI platform, meanwhile, where we have the container Docker framework, let's say, and within that, the partner team is ensuring that we are running in a compliant and secured manner, while we get, let's say, the environment where we really can code in a Python script like LangGraph is the language I think we will most likely use, the respective agent definitions, let's call it like that, and deploy there the respective environment and code. And then the partner team is ensuring that we have, for example, GitHub, so a secure push or CI/CD platform enabled, so that we can really push the code to the respective environments. Again, I would maybe recommend detailed session with these colleagues. They can better, first of all, explain what they ensure as an infrastructure for us. And maybe it's then also the perfect audience, because I don't want to be too technically here, because otherwise maybe some people are lost.
Thank you very much. Sorry. The next question is, are the agents capable of cash forecasting?
That is exactly the point we are currently investigating and challenging also our product engineering. So for the positioning, I wouldn't say this is a real forecast. So it's not doing any regressions, any any mathematics behind it. It's really just going into the short-term cash position app, let's say gets in a big layer, all predicted internal system flows. Yes, but predicted based on invoices, etc., with a due date. So there's a 1 or 0, either there is an invoice or no, but there's not like a certainty level really coded in a probability, let's say like that. So our cash flow prediction or cash prediction in that way is not really included in this agent yet. This will something, I guess, the financing agent will then take over, but he will have prediction capabilities actually in his, let's say, body.
Okay, thank you very much. So currently that was the last question online, but I do have a question because that is something our user groups often ask us. That is, what are the steps they need to do to enable themselves to use AI, in their companies? I mean, that is a very broad question. Perhaps you can at least, break it down for the finance department. What can they do there?
Damian, you want to start or should I?
Well, we can structure or slice it a bit. Yeah, that's a very broad question, which is a great question actually. And if you remember, there was one slide what we tried to look into. We have several processes actually which are running in different areas. What we are looking right in some areas we are pretty good, pretty much automated. Still in other areas we can improve. Actually, we can improve in every area, but in some areas more, so to say. And this is what I shared with this process. Then we take still there are problem statements coming from our CFO unit, where they still say, hey, in this area there is still a problem. So that would be also an entry point to go into that and to look, are there problem statements? And that what we normally do in a simplified way. Then we look into the roadmap and look and check in the autonomous finance, is there an assistant or an agent, or is there anything planned in design, for example, cover that? That could be an entry point. That could be one step what we do internally. That means for a customer, that could be also for your point, where do I have my problem statements and where is a standard offering given, for example, by SAP? And then quickly also connect what we do and what Max outlined is where we still have a need to go into, because the problem statement still exists in a niche area or it's still painful, then we go into this Joule studio and try to look into custom agent possibilities. So these are the steps how we approach. Therefore, as I understand, our customer needs to enable, that what I want to say is the first enablement is really be clear about your process areas, be clear about your pain points and areas where you have pain points, and then talk to your IT colleagues what kind of offerings are maybe there. And they, from an IT perspective, might really check, and that's the key takeaways we had earlier. That's a bit the segue to you, Max. On which SAP version are we running? Do we have a BAI platform? On which version is this running? Do we have a Joule deployed? Those would be typical questions then, and I think we put it on the slide earlier. You can check mark. Combine also to this problem statements and maybe your process vision you had. Because the reason why you should do that is not only for technical upgrades, so to say, but really that you want to envision a future state in your finance area, for example. And this is actually really where the new autonomous finance can really help you looking to the future. I pause here, and I think, Max, you maybe can hook into somewhere.
Yeah, just maybe adding here again for my cash positioning agent, I can say technically it's, for example, the private S/4HANA Cloud 2023 edition you need, because there are the notes released. If you are on a lower release, there might be still possibilities, but you need then, of course, to invest technically to provide, let's say, the insights for the agent that he can call it. So sticking in standard 2023 in S4, I can state for cash positioning agent, there might be, of course, looking on accounts receivable, accounts payable, and all other module sites, different releases where it might be available. I mean, high level, if I'm not wrong, it's also mentioned that it should be at least for 2023, but there should be also potentially sometimes even more downports to lower releases. Again, I'm not familiar with the whole product portfolio. I can say for my given area here, the details in that manner.
Thank you so much, Damian and Max, for your explaining all the questions. I think you provided excellent value with all your answers, and again for your excellent presentation. And a big thanks to everyone for joining this session. We hope you gained a lot of value from today. And we're not done yet. Next week again, Thursday, July 23rd, we will have a session on SAP's journey to the autonomous HCM. And with this, I would like to wish everyone a great day, a great evening, depending on where you are. Bye-bye.
Have a great one.